Hi, did you know it's possible to clean the ocean with hair and to make bricks out of rubble? We're going to tell you more about these and other interesting stories over the next half hour or thereabout. Welcome to Eco Africa. I'm Neo Taegbe in Uyo, Akwa Ibom State, Nigeria.
And I am Sandra Twinobudio here in Kampala, Uganda. It is good to have you with us for yet another exciting episode of our environmental show with focus on Africa. Here are some of the topics that we'll be looking at today. How Rwanda is trying to reverse a decline in its bee population. We also see how a sharing economy conserves scarce resources. And finally, how young activists in Ghana are fighting for a healthier ecosystem. But first to Rwanda. The bee population there has been shrinking at an alarming rate, there as it has been in Europe. The main culprits are chemical pesticides and intensive farming practices. But bees contribute to biodiversity. They are great pollinators. So how are beekeepers in Rwanda coping? How can they tackle the problems? We went to meet some of them to find out.
His bees are dying, and he can't do anything about it. Ansem Kagabo is distraught. Over the past 8 years, more than half of his 70 colonies have perished.
All the bees that come back from farms infect the others in a beehive. That's why they die, both in the traditional and the modern beehives. The number declines gradually until there are no bees alive inside.
Ansem Kagabo has been raising bees for more than 20 years. He uses traditional beehives to collect wild ones. Then he transfers them to small modern beehives on his farm. The bees go in search of food in the fields around his village in northeastern Rwanda. Farmers here and across the country are using more and more pesticides on their crops. These potato plants are no exception. At the same time, bee populations are collapsing. Farmers are aware that these things are connected.
A large number of bees die when the Irish potato plants are in bloom. Whenever bees land on the flowers after we've sprayed them, we see them die.
Pesticides are toxic and kill many forms of life that are not the intended target. When their bees die, beekeepers suffer the economic consequences.
We would like the government to support farmers to get chemicals that are not toxic. That way they can continue farming without causing us to lose our bees.
But a shift to organic farming is still a long way off here. Biological pesticides are rarely used, in part because they're expensive. The government is considering raising the tax on chemical pesticides and lowering the tax on organic ones. That would be good for the environment, farmers and beekeepers. In the meantime, the government offers training courses for beekeepers. One topic, how to breed healthier and more productive bee colonies.
We want to rear queens to develop kind of bees which can resist on the disease and pests. The other reason of rear queens, it's to increase honey production, and other bee products.
That won't solve the problem of pesticides, but at least beekeepers can learn how to breed queen bees and thus build new colonies. The beekeeper cooperative, Cooperacy, has been taking part in the training program for over a year. Instructors come and visit regularly. Every egg from a queen bee has to be taken out of the honeycomb and placed in a new beehive. Then the bees have to feed the eggs. After 2 or 3 weeks, the new brood hatches.
We're glad we're getting this training. Now we can be sure that there are going to be more bee colonies. We can look forward to having more beehives, and that will guarantee increased honey production.
The cooperative has already managed to make up a large part of its losses.
Since this new technique was introduced, it has boosted our business. We had lost a large number of colonies. We only had 120 beehives left out of a total of 400. But since then, we've managed to add 200 hives. That's a great success story over a short period of time.
This training program has been running since 2015 and at no cost to beekeepers. The government wants every beekeeper in the country to take the courses. Thanks to the program, honey production has been rising again, and so has the price of honey, up fivefold in recent years to about €6 a kilo, in part because the bee population has shrunk. Despite all the advances, the honey still contains some toxins. But other changes, like making chemical pesticides more expensive and biological ones cheaper, could help create better honey while keeping the bees alive.
It sounds weird, but it is true. You can help the environment by cutting your hair. Hair is absorbent, and a hairdresser in France came up with the idea of using it to soak up oil or fats in the sea. Let us see how it works.
Hair. Thierry Gras, a stylist in southeastern France, cuts off 29 kilos of it every year. But instead of just throwing it out, Gras collects every lock to help fight oil pollution in the world's oceans.
Hair is lipophilic. It absorbs hydrocarbons. That is to say, hydrocarbons stick to the outside. That's why you can wash them off. They don't get inside the hair.
Gras founded the project Coiffeurs Justes, or Fair Hairdressers. Beauticians from across France send in hair clippings. Formerly unemployed people and school dropouts stuff the hair into nylon stockings to make pillows, which will then be used to absorb fats and oils from water. Gras sells the pillows to fishermen, yacht owners and harbour operators. He pays his helpers with the proceeds. Some of the pillows are now in use in a pilot project in the harbour of Cavalaire-sur-Mer. More than 1,000 boats are docked here.
In the long run, we'll try to use it around the port, since the rain runoff water falls in the port. It washes out the soil, picking up hydrocarbons. So the idea is to go around the whole port, plus under the boats and the refueling station, and above all to convince other ports.
1 kilo of hair can absorb 7 litres of oil. The hair pillows are brought to a special company for washing and can be reused up to 10 times. Some salon visitors might be happy to sport a shorter hairdo for a good cause.
And how about you? If you're also doing your bit, tell us about it. Visit our website or send us a tweet. #DoingYourBit. We share your stories.
You can find informal settlements in most large African cities. Living conditions are often really tough. A young entrepreneur in South Africa came up with a great idea to make things better.
Indeed, he built homes out of bricks made from recycled rubble. The houses are safer and more sustainable than the usual metal shacks. People were pretty skeptical at first, but tenants are now moving into the houses he's built. We went to Soweto to find out more about this.
The township of Soweto lies just south of Johannesburg. Formerly a home to miners, the region now has around 4 million residents. No one knows the exact number. Most live in corrugated sheet metal shacks. And that's just what young entrepreneur Landa Glovo wants to change. He wants to have lots of brick houses built. 50,000 homes are needed in the Johannesburg metropolitan area.
We have a lot of people who are coming to Johannesburg, coming to look for work opportunities. So most of them actually prefer to live in the townships because it's cheaper to live there when you're renting, and it's actually convenient for you to live from wherever you're staying to go to work. So this creates an opportunity for homeowners to actually create accommodation for those people, where they're renting the backyard structures either in a formal manner or they're renting a shack.
Many South Africans could never afford to buy a home of their own. So they rent shacks in other people's backyards, all crammed together side by side. Landler Delovu is a self-taught bricklayer. While building an outbuilding in the backyard of his parents' home, he got an idea to replace corrugated metal shacks with brick houses. His customers are the people who own the land. They pay for the building in monthly instalments using the rent they receive from the tenants, while the tenants themselves get to live in a better home. Plus, the whole thing is more environmentally friendly as the houses are made of special bricks.
So they're more like, almost like Lego bricks. So because the interlocking, you actually use 70% less cement. So this actually cuts your building cost by up to 30%. You can use unskilled and semi-skilled labor to actually build with these bricks. You only use a qualified bricklayer maybe to do the foundations and just the rest of the structure when you have to put in the roofing.
Landlord Lovu makes his bricks out of old construction waste, so he doesn't need to use sand. That also means the bricks don't have to be fired in a kiln, which saves on energy. Because the building blocks are interlocking, the pressure of their own weight is sufficient to make the walls strong and stable. It's an unusual way to build, but it's less of a burden on the environment than traditional masonry.
Since we're not using the traditional building method, most people were a bit skeptical when it comes to interlocking bricks, especially when you tell them that you don't really use cement to actually build the structures. So having to have a pilot, this has kind of like unlocked potential clients. We now have people, because they can see, touch and feel the structure, it's now more convincing them for them to be even interested in the technology.
This man was also interested and happy to learn more. Svanli Sibia is among the first tenants to move into one of the brick houses. The 35-year-old car mechanic has been living in a backyard for 6 years, until recently in a metal shack. But not anymore. Now he has a proper home. He used to pay about €35 a month. Now he pays 40. He thinks it's worth it.
Actually, I'm very, very, very happy, because if you are staying in the shack, it's not like you're staying in the room. Shack is like it's not a place to be like as a human being, actually. To staying in a room, it's where you feel you're confident with everything. Like shack is not the room.
Building rubble is a major environmental problem in the impoverished districts of Johannesburg. Many companies just dump their waste in the townships to avoid paying disposal fees. Nondusimo Sibia knows this all too well. Every day, dozens of trucks come to her neighbourhood to illegally dump building waste from more prosperous areas. This bothered her a lot, until it inspired her to become an entrepreneur. Now she's founded a startup that processes waste.
So, because a lot of people do waste removal, right? They collect waste and then they collect waste. But then we actually take responsibility of where the waste ends up. We rehabilitate roads with the waste, we compost it, we also send it or distribute it to organizations that make use of it.
Organizations like Landler Delovu's house building company. The two startups plan to work together. Delovu could use the plentiful building rubble for his environmentally friendly bricks.
Yeah.
Now the two are working on ways to crush the waste and transport it to the construction sites. They hope to get started soon.
With the informal settlements, the plan is to actually train the people that live here, upskill them to actually build their own structures. So we can replace all their shacks by giving them skills and also training them to build their own houses. These are two areas which we want to move into, another one being in the rural areas.
All that is the stuff of the future. Right now, each building is a major financial risk for Landler Delovu and his startup. He's only been able to complete 3 homes with environmentally friendly bricks so far. 3 more are under construction. But he's been inundated with requests for more.
Sharing is caring, and more people across Europe are warming to the idea of a sharing economy. It's a good way to help each other, reduce consumption and waste, and benefit the environment. Despite the restrictions on social interaction because of the COVID-19 pandemic, sharing is catching on. Perhaps because people really want to show solidarity and be kind in these difficult times. Let's take a closer look at how a sharing economy works.
Albrecht Trübenbacher has clearly done this many times before. He's putting together his bike trailer so that he can lend it to a neighbor, for free, of course. That's nothing out of the ordinary for him. He regularly lends out his belongings. Garden equipment, tools, a child's mattress for sleep-ins. If he lends his neighbors these things, so goes his thinking. They won't have to buy them.
I don't see this as being anti-consumerist. It's about sustainability. These things are used so rarely. If you use something a lot, then buying something makes increasing sense.
The 2 men got to know each other via an online neighborhood platform. More than 1.6 million users are connected to people living in their vicinity via nebenan.de. People use it to lend and borrow stuff, to swap information, or to offer help.
We have over 50,000 entries linked to lending and borrowing, and the range of items is huge, from a grill to a car seat, to a bike trailer, to a ladder, to a hand cart. So many different things.
Ganz unterschiedliche Sachen und es werden sehr viele Fähigkeiten angeboten.
They also offer services, English tutoring, guitar lessons, yoga. All these things and more are exchanged.
The startup was set up in Berlin in 2015. The portal is free of charge for users. The company funds itself via donations and small ads placed by companies in the respective neighborhoods. Even some local authorities use the platform to communicate with residents in a particular area. People have a whole range of different reasons for using the platform.
Es gibt ja auch den Trend, dass die Leute auf immer weniger Wohnraum leben. Das heißt, ich möchte
People increasingly live in smaller apartments. They don't want to gather too much clutter, and many people simply want to give something back to their community. We believe that if people give, it makes them very happy, and it strengthens social bonds. When we borrow something from someone, we come into closer contact with those we live right next door to.
in eine engere Beziehung auch mit den Menschen kommen, neben denen wir direkt leben.
By contrast, Jan Gerlach never meets any of his customers. He offers high-quality tools for €1.50 an hour. You can reserve them via an app. Toolbot is built around the classic business model of the sharing economy, where companies earn money by renting items out for a particular period of time. Anja Schwarz is one of his customers. She's a dancer who travels around the world a lot for her work. For small household tasks, she borrows what she needs from Toolbot, an electric drill in this instance.
€1.50 is a lot less than the price of a drill, and I can always come here and borrow it again. That means I can get it as often as I need it.
Jan Gerlach is launching a crowd investment campaign to help him grow his business. He believes his model could also work with other items and on an international basis.
Man hat einfach ein beschränktes Budget finanziell.
We have limited budgets, and the amount of CO2 we emit is limited too. If we want people in emerging and developing economies to enjoy the prosperity that they deserve, then we have to achieve this prosperity in a zero-carbon and eco-friendly manner.
Despite social distancing, the lockdown actually brought Albrecht Trübenbacher and his neighbors closer together in many ways. They redecorated the apartment of a neighbor who was ill and helped out with odd jobs. All that for free.
Back to Africa now. Preserving the local forest, that's also the mission of a group of young environmentalists in Ghana. They are fighting against the slash and burn practices that are still widely used in agriculture in the African country, West Africa there. Farmers use the resulting ash as organic fertilizer.
Yes, Niota, but all too often the bushfires get out of control, and this has had disastrous consequences for the environment. The activists with the Young Voices Education Foundation travel to the country to convince people to change such harmful traditions.
These young people are willing to act. A cocoa farm is engulfed in flames. The group is trying to minimize the damage, but it's a losing battle. The harm began long before the fire. Too many trees have been cut down in the area, explains David Gwebleu from the Young Voices Educational Foundation. The entire harvest is lost, and incidents like this are becoming a problem here in Ghana. It's a nightmare for the farmers.
This is the first time I experienced this fire disaster.
Do you know the cause of the fire?
No, but I believe it is a bush fire set by somebody that extended into my farm and destroyed the entire farm.
Back in the town of New Baika, David Gwebleu meets with team members to discuss strategies to tackle widespread slash and burn practices. They decide to talk about it at a village meeting. Between January and March, over 115 bushfires were reported in the region. The local fire chief, who works closely with the young volunteers, is concerned for the future.
You cannot cheat nature. So once we have decided to be cheating nature, the effect will come directly on us. And so we decided to train the people, let them understand, let them know that falling down their trees or cutting down the trees, burning the bush, burning down the trees, it will get to a time we will lose our medicine. The medicinal plants will all be gone. The animals that we are seeing now, the future yet unborn will not know any of them. They only see them in books.
David Gwebleu wants to keep that from happening. He's starting to become a teacher and breeds pigs to finance his education. The earnings also allow him to pursue his musical ambitions.
I even sold some of these to raise funds for my song pertaining to afforestation.
Some of the money also went into producing a music video to further promote environmental awareness. A group dancers from his hometown supported him by appearing in the video.
How beautiful your forest once before, the dews of Africa.
This is a 182 global warming, some more lack of water, so you see then your name. Give me the reason you cutting the tree, but I give you the reason you are living around.
Music is one of the ways to get the message across. But YVEF Group also does community outreach to inform people about the consequences of cutting down trees. The effects are clearly visible in this region. Nearly all rivers have dried up, and the only one still running is the Dai River. It's a lifeline for more than 20 communities further down the stream, but many fail to take into consideration. This couple is using a traditional method to produce palm oil. During the process, they pour the waste directly into the water. It is soon swept away by the current, but the environmental impact will linger much longer. While June and July are mainly used for tree planting activities, the environmental activists spend the rest of the time educating the rural population about nature conservation and the effects of climate change.
I explained to her that what she's doing is wrong. Other people are fetching the water and using the water downstream. So I explained to her, and then she understood that what she's doing is really bad.
Old habits are hard to change, so the activists have founded awareness clubs in more than 50 schools in the region. As a part of their campaign on afforestation, they have helped to organize a demonstration for school children.
We've decided to inculcate the spirit of tree planting among the students so that they can be doing this weekly or monthly, so that wherever they go up with planting of trees, and then they can even extend this idea to their various houses and educate their parents.
Time to get their hands dirty, planting trees in the schoolyard. Welcome respite from the regular routine.
So trees are our friends. We need to plant them in our community, get them watered on a daily basis.
Planting trees is more than a symbolic act for David Gweblehu. The children have learned a lot about the crucial roles that trees play. They provide shade, protect rivers and soil, and play a vital role in maintaining the health of our environment.
We've come to the end of today's show about the environment and interesting ways to protect it. Thank you all for joining us, and of course, your company is always welcome. It is a goodbye from me, Sandra Twinovidio, here in Kampala, and I'll be looking forward to seeing you once again next week.
Just a quick reminder that you can always check out our social media feeds and watch old shows as well on our website. Until next time, it's goodbye from me in Uyo, Akwa Ibom State, Nigeria.